don't. My name is Josh R. Cole. I am the director of the Council on Compulsive Gambling of Pennsylvania. And before I talk a little bit about the council and introduce Anthony, I just want to say just how happy I am that you're all here with us today. I'm so thankful to see such a great turnout, but I really hope that you are doing well. I hope that your families are doing well. I hope that everybody's remaining safe through all of this. And as we all get together and navigate our way through this temporary new normal, I promise that we'll do everything in our power to keep you all engaged and to stay connected, and obviously to do everything that we can to focus on assisting those folks who need us, obviously now more than ever. As you may know, today marks the very first webinar in kind of a series of several that we're going to be offering over the next several weeks. And we will be continuing to send out email updates and posting on our website, which is pacouncil.com. Once sessions become finalized and everything, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, we'll have more information. So please stay tuned. For those of you who don't know about the council, very quickly, we're a nonprofit advocacy group, and we focus our efforts on the entire state of Pennsylvania. And basically what we do is we try to help anybody who's experiencing negative related issues to gambling. We try to get them help, and that might be the individual, it might be it might be an individual's family member or friend, anybody who is struggling or would like more information. We want to make sure that they can get the help that they need. And the primary way that we connect folks with help is through the use of our helpline, which is 1-800-GAMBLER. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with this number. It's a phone number. It's also available on our website as a chat or text option. And it's basically a 24/7 live call center where we connect people who are calling in with help. And that help might be counselors or agencies. It might be a self-help meeting like Gamblers Anonymous or Gam-Anon. It could be something like self-exclusion, which are the voluntary ban programs that are offered in Pennsylvania by several groups, the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board, the Office of Compulsive and Problem Gambling within the control board. They do a great job offering several different options for folks who would like to ban themselves. And then also the online lottery program has a self-exclusion program. So these are just a few of the things that we may offer to folks who might be suffering or experiencing problems. And if any of you have any questions about the council, I invite you again, join us for future webinars, visit our website. You can get my contact info there, and I'd be happy to talk with you about any of the things that we do and any of the work that we, that we conduct. When we were looking at our training calendar was quite full through the spring. As I'm sure many of you had a lot of things on your calendar, and obviously that just pretty much got turned upside down over the last month or so with everything that's been happening. So we decided to begin switching over to web-based programs as a way of basically staying connected with everybody. And like I mentioned, over the next several weeks, we're going to be focusing on a number of different topics that we feel are really quite relevant to the current reality that we're all facing. But to begin with, we're going to spend some time today talking about ways to help manage some of the stresses that clients may be experiencing. And our presenter today, Anthony, who you've had the opportunity to meet, who served as a temporary interim MC before I could get back on the webinar. He's going to be sharing information about the importance of stress management, obviously, and how stress can have such a direct impact on physical and mental well-being. And in addition, he'll also be offering some stress management tools and mindfulness techniques, and talking about some ways to help clients who may be experiencing problems, obviously of gambling nature, to include or to be included in that. And if this is something that you're new to, if you have used mindfulness techniques in the past or not, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, today what we'd like to offer you is additional resources and ways that you may be able to incorporate some things to benefit not only your client, but also yourself. Just very quickly, I had the pleasure of meeting Anthony several years ago, very, very early on in my time with the council. And we very quickly connected. We've maintained a really nice working relationship and friendship over the past several years. And I absolutely respect him, and not only as a clinician and an educator, but also as a person. Anthony's just wonderful. And I'm thrilled that he's agreed to join us today and in this inaugural voyage of webinars and programs. Anthony's a mental health professional and an addiction specialist. He has well over 35 years of service in the field of addiction and mental health treatment. And obviously, Anthony brings a lot of experience to today's session. In addition to being a licensed clinical professional counselor and master addictions counselor, he is also a second-level international certified gambling counselor and also a board-approved clinical consultant, which is a certification that's offered by the International Gambling Counselor Certification Board. So what that translates to is Anthony's about the highest level of gambling counselor that you can get to. And, obviously this is going to have a tremendous impact on the way that he's going to focus on today's program. And I invite you to ask questions. Anything that Anthony can offer, I know, it's going to be a wealth of information and knowledge for you. We will have some time at the end of the program to answer questions, but what I'd like to do is offer you the ability to ask questions throughout the session. I'll be fielding them, and we'll try to cover as many as we can at the end. Just use the Zoom chat feature that so many of you have already been providing feedback in, and I do appreciate that. Let's just utilize that if you don't mind, and we'll have time at the end. At this point, I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to mute myself, but I do invite you just all to sit back, relax, enjoy the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. Anthony takes us on this little journey. And at this point, I'm going to hand the controls back over to my friend, Anthony Parente. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for all of those kind words. I appreciate that. But I appreciate even more just being able to be here today with each and every one of you. Now, everything we do has taken on quite a different focus over the last month. So I want to welcome everybody, and it's good to be all together. Especially these days, it's good to be in the company of others, no matter how that might be, virtually or any other way. So it's nice to be connected to you in this way for this hour. So it's my pleasure to be here, and it is a privilege. So stress management, mindfulness, working with problem gambling. I'm going to, of course, cover that topic today and want to be able to engage your participation. Well, it's not as easy as being in person that way. I come to you here from my Corona headquarters, which is a room that it was a guest room in my basement of my house that we have people stay, but now it's my office. You might be doing the same kind of thing where you are. We've all been moved to this remote way of operating. It's a strange new world. And with strange new worlds comes a lot of stress, a lot of change, a lot of things we haven't thought about before. So I hope that you walk away with some techniques that you can use with your clients, but I'm also going to be spending some time helping you to think about self-care. And, one of the great things about this field is when we learn about how we could help clients, there's always a way we could learn about helping ourselves. And that's one of the benefits that nobody really told us about when we may have been starting this journey into the field. So let's see. All right, now there we go. The clicks didn't get me where I wanted to. So I want to talk about stress. It's a topic you've heard about. Topic of stress management's been around for a long time, but it's been something that's always been applicable. So I want to talk about stress and gambling problems and the relationship between the two. I want to help you to help clients to develop more effective coping strategies when it comes to stress and enhance their potential for success in their recoveries. So why don't we start with just settling in and settle in a little bit more. Sit comfortably in your chair. And take a couple of slow, deep, steady, deep breaths. all the way in and all the way out. I get the impression that everybody could use some stress management today. Allow yourself to be calm. Allow yourself to be in touch with your breath. Allow yourself to be right here, right now, in the moment. Just spend a moment thinking about a couple or a few things that you're grateful for as you sit here today. Appreciate the calm and the ease that just taking a moment offers us. Okay, you could slowly return yourself to the room. Just thought it might be good to start that way because something tells me you've already had a day that involved much more than you thought it would, or it certainly didn't go according to plan. I mean, days haven't been going according to plan. Days usually don't go according to plan, but in the last 4 to 5 weeks, it's been even a wilder ride. So you might look at my slides before I get to this slide. You might look at my slides and wonder, like, gosh, black and white, and we're used to designs and colorful kind of framing and all of that kind of thing. But I just thought, given the situation, that maybe we should just go for a sanitized look today. So when I was looking to, figure out a design for the PowerPoints, I just decided to go with the original. So that's why you get a black and white version just like this today. So what do we seek for our clients and for ourselves? Awareness. The answers to this are right on there. Other times I might kind of animate them in so you could think about that for a second. But I'm hoping you thought about it for a second. But when you come down to it, what we're hoping to do is provide our clients opportunities for personal growth and change. And that comes through awareness, insight, understanding. And when people can understand themselves better, they're able to affect change for themselves. And as you know, we need to meet clients where they are and help to facilitate their growth and their development. And that's what helps them to get to a better place, to cope more effectively, to realize and achieve the goals that they have in their lives. We seek this for ourselves as well, in our own personal growth and development. So, I know I'm going to be asking you questions that can't tell what your answers are, but I know that you're thinking. So, how has our jobs and our lives changed over the last 4 to 5 weeks? But even think before that, it's hard to. What in our lives is stressful and challenging? What about for our clients? Who's the first person who comes to mind in your own life, family members, or even the first client that comes to mind in terms of the one who faces the most challenges? I think of a client who has cerebral palsy. I'm thinking of a client right now who's a respiratory therapist at Johns Hopkins and was telling me yesterday about what it's like to work there and how and how stressful it is, and how each day has tremendous amounts of challenges. It sounded like a war zone, actually, as she described it to me. So, of course, what are the causes of stress as they relate to this COVID-19 situation? Okay. Was talking briefly with Josh before everybody joined on, and it's like we are forced to think about things that we never had to think about before. Simple things, even. Yeah, we might figure out and plan when we're going to the grocery store, but boy, isn't that a new endeavor these days. And everybody else that we're concerned about. And during our work days, wondering about family members or getting news about family members, or, my hope as I reach out to all of you there is that whoever's in your life is healthy. But I know the chances of that with so many people out there, it's not very good these days with all that we're hearing and all that we know is going on in the world. That is challenging. That is tremendously stressful. So what are the effects in terms of daily life and risk factors? Now, what I mean by that is like risk factors for addictions, risk factors for relapses in people's addictions, for gamblers, for those who abuse alcohol, for drug users. Now, we know that the numbers are going to go up of people who are engaging in behaviors that are not necessarily at all in their best interest. So let's put a little bit more perspective on this. So how would you define stress? Now, what is stress? What are the specific stressors that our clients are coping with? Well, these days, casinos are closed and they may have been going to a casino on a regular basis. We know that people are maybe not having access to some of the avenues which their addictions would express themselves. But, what are the stresses that our clients are coping with? Unemployment, financial uncertainty. One of my clients this week, told me that he lost his job. Several clients are fearful of losing their job and very worried about what the future holds, as we all are. What are we dealing with ourselves in terms of the future and uncertainty? Uncertainty is very unsettling for people. We need structure, we need predictability, and to know what's coming up for us. So here's a way of defining stress. There's a number of different definitions out there. But stress is defined as a physical, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral response to a real or perceived challenge, demand, change, or threat. So real or perceived. Well, we have a real threat right now that we're dealing with, as you all are so well aware, painfully aware. An invisible threat that makes us all vulnerable. Now, the perception part does come in too, in terms of how people respond to this differently, depending on how threatened they feel. And some people are very terrified, so other people less so, but that depends on an awful lot of factors as well. So challenges, demands, change, or threats. Well, what we're going through right now hits all four of those. So the stressor can be just even somebody's conflict in their relationship, could be the struggles that their child is having, or the health of their parent who they care for. So many folks have been not able to visit elder parents that they used to go visit regularly. So stressors lead to a perception. That perception leads to a reaction, which has an impact, like it says here, on a cognitive, emotional, and physical way, in a cognitive, emotional, and physical way, which has an impact on behavior, okay? And those behaviors often come as a result of not just stress, many factors, but certainly, again, risk factors are increased significantly these days for depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, the whole host of disorders that we deal with on a regular basis and the function of our work. So let's tie stress to addiction. You know, what does it mean to be addicted? You know, what are some images that come to mind here? Well, here's some images, but you know, what are some other images that might come to mind for you? Addiction, as I'm sure all of you know, is a behavior based on a pathological need for a substance or for an activity. So what can an individual be addicted to? All kinds of things. You know, of course, this talk is related primarily to gambling, but how is stress and addiction related? Well, it has a cause and effect relationship. And why I have cause and effect down again is because it does cause the effect of having a gambling disorder, but also having a gambling disorder can have an effect on other aspects of one's functioning in life, and we know that it does. So it really does work both ways. It causes, has an effect, and then that effect can cause other complications and plenty of other issues. And most of the people that come to us are grappling with psychological difficulties and struggles and suffering on so many different levels. So substance use, behavioral addictions generally involve pathological use, potentially hazardous behavior, continued use despite persistent social, psychological, occupational, and health problems, a physiological need for increasing amounts of the substance. You know, we know that tolerance is a part of it for whether it's a behavioral or a chemical addiction. And so, you know, when we think about it too, what else people could be addicted to, and I know that there's going to be an increase in this, and we know it too, and I attended a workshop last week. Dan in New Jersey did one on gaming and cyber esports and fantasy sports, and it was excellent. And, you know, he talked about how so much happens online. You know, we think of casinos being closed as, you know, there's going to be a lot of withdrawal because of that. But there are so many other avenues for gambling besides going to a casino. And we knew that was the case, you know, long before casinos were even in our states, right? So let's think about like addiction and what it is from various points of view. There's a genetic component to it that predisposes someone to problems, but stress helps to express that genetic predisposition, and the negatively impacted environmental issues, you know, neglect in childhood or abuse, those kinds of things make the predisposition much more likely to be expressed. We know that it develops over time. There's a progression to addictions. It's chronic. It has biological, psychological, social, and environmental, behavioral, and emotional causes. It leads to an individual to develop obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviors and tendencies towards something. Now, think for a second of the clients that you serve. And I wouldn't be surprised, actually I would expect, now I should say it that way, if many of the folks that you serve have the perfect storm of addiction, because not just one, but all three of these have gone on in their lives. So there's a genetic predisposition. I have a client who had a very serious gambling problem, still does, but I'm happy to say he's been in recovery for 2 years, but a gentleman with bipolar disorder who had an alcohol problem and a gambling problem. Tended to his alcohol problem, but not to his gambling issues, and never went on medication for his bipolar. But he was seriously contemplating ending his life, was going over a bridge in the area here. I come to you by way of Towson, Maryland, but one of the bridges around Baltimore is called the Key Bridge, and he kept driving over it, and the police noticed that he kept showing up again. And so they stopped him. And he was slowing down when he got to the top of the bridge a couple of times because he was planning on ending his life. He had the genetic predisposition towards this. His father was a gambler. Other people in his family were gamblers and alcohol abusers. He also had a very abusive home that he grew up in. So the social environmental factors. He had family members who, when he was a kid, would send him off to give the neighborhood bookie the numbers that they were picking for the day, different things like that. This gentleman had a very difficult time coping. And he really did have the perfect storm of addiction and gave himself such a hard time for, like, what's wrong with me? Why is it that I struggle in this way? And would struggle to understand that for himself. I'm sure you know folks who have difficulties along this line. So let's think about how the world has changed in the last 4 to 5 weeks. Like I said at the opening, it is a new world. It's changed significantly. And we're not sure what it's going to be like even when we come through the other side of this and we're able to get back outside and not have the physical distance separating us. So stress, that perceived threat, is a learned response. It's learned through our interactions with the environment. So folks that have addiction issues often perceive greater harm than there actually is in their world. And that harm doesn't have to be physical, but oftentimes it can be, especially if there's been physical abuse in their lives. But much of the time, people perceive threat greater than there is because the environments that they grew up in were dangerous, not just physically, but oftentimes emotionally. So people feel as though that they're under the threat of harm much more so than ever. And, you know, these days, while we're like kind of thinking about Maslow's hierarchy, you know, that second level, you know, we're still making sure for the most part we get food and water, but you know, our safety needs are something that we are heightened awareness of. So this cause and effect relationship, again, has effect on us biologically because our sympathetic nervous system has us so tense and ratcheted up, adrenaline going through our bodies, much more so than usual. The cognitive effect, you know, the belief is that it's so dangerous, I'm not going to come out of this, or, you know, to the extreme of, you know, I might die, you know, that's very real right now. The emotional effect, fear, anxiety, helplessness, this all keeps us from being able to function in the ways that are in our best interest or good for ourselves, and think of our clients and think of all of those who are struggling these days. And I'm sure you have talked to many over the last month. So, you know, what is it? This stress lesson I'm getting to is like control. We all need control. Everybody does. You don't have to be you know, the term control freak in order to need control in our lives. Why do we need it? Because it helps us to feel comfortable, because it frees us up to think about the things that we love and enjoy and want to do and those kinds of things. But think of, especially of your clients who struggle with anxiety, when they perceive a loss of control, it's even more stressful than ever. We just need it to function in this world, and we've lost a great bit of it over these last couple of weeks. So even, you know, the same for us. You know, our jobs are very difficult in terms of hearing about stress on a regular basis. I'm sure you're all familiar with the term compassion fatigue. It's just from being exposed to trauma regularly. And what are we taking with us and what we're hearing in a given day now compared to what we were a month ago? How much harder is our job to do as we try to navigate a new world of doing telehealth, or, you know, having all of our conferences at work on video conference, those kinds of things. So what we try to help people with, and I know you do this already, but think about, you know, what we can control and what we cannot. You know, Serenity prayer comes to mind, of course, when we think about this. So can we help our clients to try to accept the things that they can control, accept the things that they cannot control, excuse me, and know what they can and take control of those more? I'm thinking about another gambling client that I have who we were actually working on stress management before all of this happened. And he works really hard at trying to do this, but it does take a lot of practice. So I had a little meditation exercise that I wanted to do with you right now. But think about, like, if you made a little list before we get into the exercise, think about if you made a little list where list 3 things that we can control and list 3 things that we cannot control. And just take a look at those lists for a second. Don't we try to control some of those things that are in the list that we can't? Like somebody else's health, like, you know, hoping we get back to work in a month at our offices, things like that. So acceptance takes a lot of practice. It takes practice for all people to accept the things that they cannot control, because control is such an important factor in our lives. So some of my clients that I've been working with that have struggled with anxiety, I've worked them through this mindfulness exercise of finding our strengths. So I'd like to do this with you right now, because we all have strengths, and I want to help people do a little exercise that will kind of bring this to mind for us. So if you could get back into your comfortable positions for a few moments with me, and take a couple of deep breaths. And allow yourself to be right here, right now. Notice your breath. Calm mind helps us to calm our bodies. The calm body helps us to calm our minds. Just check for any tension anywhere in your body. I'm going to bring up some concepts that I just would like you to notice what comes to mind, or what kind of feelings come up when I mention these words. And this is connecting to various parts of our strengths. So let's start with connecting with our energy. The energy that you bring to each day of your life. The enthusiasm you have for the work you do, for the life you live. Notice what you experience when you think about your energy. Let's shift to our spirit. The spirit that we have, the spirit that is us, what we value. Our purpose. What are the feelings that come up? How do you maybe experience it in your body? How do you think about your spirit? Now let's move to our heart. Sometimes it could even be helpful to put your hand over your heart. But your heart is an energy source. It keeps the blood flowing. But our heart is connected to all we care about and care for and who we care for. Think of the actions that you engage in every day that are connected to your heart. It's a place we want to find peace. From our heart, let's move to love. Your loving self. The love you've given and gotten from people. The love that makes you who you are. Now let's move to our strengths. What comes to mind when you think about your strengths? Your strength, your characteristics, your traits. Your abilities, your mind, your intellect. And now let's move to compassion. Your compassion for yourself and others. What comes to mind for compassion? What are the thoughts? What are the feelings? Like your empathy in action. Your energy, your spirit, your heart, your love, your strength, and your compassion are important parts of who you are. Allow yourself to come back to the room, to this webinar. Hopefully you didn't leave the webinar. But people are needing to be grounded. And I find that to be a useful way to kind of think of ourselves and all that we have in our lives that make us who we are. Okay. So I hope you found that helpful. So the stress response, it's normal, it's vital, it's a part of what is everyday life. Life would be boring without it. It involves all of that. But oftentimes the stress response leads to maladaptive patterns, emotional problems, reactions, long-term chronic problems, reactivity that's strong, aggressive outbursts, those kinds of things. What we're going through is very traumatizing these days for all of us, but especially for our clients who have histories of trauma. You know, many people have histories of trauma without it interfering. But, you know, look at all the terms in here and all of the effects of trauma and what it has on the mind and our lives. So trauma threatens our basic needs for survival and a sense of order, which has been all turned upside down these days. It leads to dissociation, addictions. You know, it pushes us to try to restore order when it's not. So it drains our energy. You know, I'm sure most of you are experiencing what I have over the last number of weeks, but at the end of the day, I'm a bit more fatigued than usually. and you feel drained, or maybe even at the end of a work day, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just so hard to muster the energy for the next part of the day, on an emotional, cognitive, physical, and even spiritual level. So that's what brings me to this slide, because they're all overlapping, but we need to recharge, rejuvenate, and restore in all of these ways. Our electronics get charged all the time. What do you do to recharge? So how we could maybe recharge our thinking, reframing our thoughts, focusing on what's in our control, like we talked about already, cultivating positive self-talk. Most of our clients talk very negatively about themselves. They are so much better at telling you what they've done wrong than what they've done right. So using affirmations with our clients, helping them to develop the language of affirmations for themselves, helping them to put things in perspective, helping them to see that there might be another way of thinking about things. I mean, cognitive behavioral therapy is all about that. Can we adjust our expectations for a particular day, or maybe even a client? You know, clients that are maybe very difficult in terms of like we wanting them to change more than they're ready to, and you know, the frustrations that that can cause at times. Maybe it's about our expectations. So we want to give ourselves time to disconnect, especially these days, to reflect on learning opportunities. So a stress management exercise is when people have a negative reaction. Like I have a client who lost his job as a result of his gambling problem, and it happened right before the COVID outbreak. So just trying to get him to think a little differently. So we work on stop, breathe, reflect, and choose. So you stop, take a breath, reflect, how am I thinking that is making me have this reaction of fear, and then choose, how could I think differently? So he is so afraid that he's not going to ever find a job. But that's not what's realistic for his skills and his experience and those kinds of things. So, you know, think ourselves right now, like, what is it that's something we're worried about? We're worried about, again, the health of somebody who we love, or you know, whether our income is going to continue. How could we think about that differently? But if we stop and breathe, it helps us to get to clarity to choose a different way of thinking. So mindfulness, I see that I'm really running a bit behind here on the things I wanted to get to, but bear with me. Do my best to get through the most important parts of what's coming up. So mindfulness is certainly present experience with acceptance, awareness of present experience with acceptance, and being non-judgmental in that. This takes practice. Many of you may be practicing mindfulness techniques these days with your clients. I've found that they have tremendous benefit in helping to improve mood and relationships, and help people to be more present in their relationships, and alleviate negative thinking patterns. So different kinds of mind-body awareness, which really mindfulness practice is about mind-body awareness. The three types are focused attention, which has us focusing on one aspect of our experience. Open monitoring is being open to what might be coming into our awareness, and then loving kindness meditation as well. So practicing a non-judgmental approach so that our thoughts are not just treated as truths, that there are other ways of looking at them. So what's your practice? How can you improve your practice? So mindfulness is a simple way of being aware of what's happening right now without wishing it was different, enjoying the pleasant without holding on when it changes, which it will, and being with the unpleasant without fearing it'll always be this way. So self-compassion is so important to treat our clients. Self-compassion entails being warm and understanding towards ourselves when we suffer. And it involves recognizing that being imperfect, making mistakes, and experiencing life difficulties is inevitable. I'm finding that I'm really needing to work hard on my self-compassion these days. And what it has to do with is just making more mistakes or wanting to do more or expecting that I'm able to, or, those kinds of things. And our clients are really good at beating themselves up with self-criticism. So I had a self-compassion exercise. I see that we're running towards the end here. I think I'll have to make an on-the-spot decision. I wanted to at least kind of give you a few more tools. So let me work through another slide or two. So self-compassion promotes well-being. And if we could develop our own mantra, like being kind and gentle to ourselves, developing an attitude of gratitude, you've heard that before, planning. So bringing us back to mindfulness and self-compassion, and of course, self-care, being a part of stress management. And we need stress management and self-care more than ever in the time that I've been working in this field. And I've always been a big proponent of self-care. So we need to respect personal boundaries. We also need to recharge daily, slow ourselves down. I've had to tell myself that so many times, making some careless mistakes because I'm not keeping it at a pace that makes me more effective and efficient, those kinds of things. So I would like to bring us to this exercise on self-compassion. I'll just do an abbreviated version of it, but I think it's very powerful. I know we're looking at the time, everybody's on a schedule, but if we could just work through this piece for just a few moments, and then I'll bring things to a close and then see if there's any questions. So sit back again, and this is a loving kindness meditation. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and breathe out. Think of a person close to you who loves you very much. It could be someone from your past or present, someone still in your life, or someone who has passed. It could be a spiritual teacher or guide. Imagine that person standing on your right side, sending you their love. That person is sending you wishes for safety and for your well-being and happiness. Feel their warm wishes and the love that's coming from that person towards you. Now imagine that you're surrounded on all sides by people who love you and have loved you. Picture all of your friends and your loved ones surrounding you. They are standing, sending you wishes for your happiness, well-being, and health. Bask in the warm wishes and love coming from all sides. You are filled and overflowing with warmth and love. Now bring to mind an acquaintance, someone who you feel neutral about. Could be a neighbor, a colleague, or someone you see around you but you don't know very well. You'd like to wish this person to experience joy and well-being in his or her life. May you be happy. Repeat this silently. May you be healthy. May you be free from all pain. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from all pain. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from all pain. Now expand your awareness and picture the whole globe in front of you, just like a little ball. And send warm wishes to all living beings on the globe who, like you, want to be happy. Just as I wish for you, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish, too, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish to you, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish too, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. And I'd like you to just take one more moment and think about everybody who's in this webinar with us. And picture them connected to you, connected to one another, the people you know, the people who span the state of Pennsylvania and beyond into neighboring states and further out. And repeat these phrases. Just as I wish too, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish too, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish too, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. Another breath in, let go, and just notice how you feel. When you're ready, open your eyes. I guess this is the time to turn it over to Josh. I want to say that I'm so glad to have been with you during this hour. I hope that you found some things that were useful, and I wish you well. I wish you peace and happiness. And some other things about resourceful resiliency here, but look for ways to find and create moments of peace for yourself in all that you do in the days to come. Thank you.